Disclaimer: this story contains mature emotional themes intended for adult audiences. It does not contain explicit material. Viewer discretion is advised. I couldn't sleep all night after what my stepson did, and if I'm being honest, I still haven't fully wrapped my head around it. It started like any other Thursday. I came home from a long day at the clinic, paperwork, tense patients, and a vending machine that ate my last $2. The kind of day you just want to leave behind as soon as you close the front door. I was looking forward to a glass of wine, a quiet dinner with my husband, maybe catching up on some mindless TV before bed. But that night, everything shifted. Let me back up for a second. I married Alex 2 years ago. He's 10 years older than me, calm where I'm impulsive, a fixer where I'm a worrier. It wasn't just him I was committing to, it was also Ethan, his 22-year-old son from a previous marriage. When I first met Ethan, I wasn't sure where I fit in. He was polite, distant, just enough warmth to keep it from being awkward, but you could tell he had walls up. I got it. His mom passed away when he was 16, and no one expects their dad to remarry, let alone to someone closer in age to them than to him. Over time, things smoothed out. Ethan stayed in the guest house out back, worked nights as a freelance video editor, and mostly kept to himself. We didn't have a close relationship, but it was civil, respectful. At least, that's what I thought. Until that night. It was almost midnight when I heard the door to the guest house slam. Not just close, slam. Loud enough that it made me sit up straight in bed. I thought maybe he'd had a fight on the phone or dropped something heavy. I waited for another sound, nothing. Silence. I tried to lie back down, but something in me said, "Get up." I threw on a robe and quietly stepped outside. The air was cold for late spring, and I could see my breath fogging up. The lights in the guest house were still on. I knocked lightly, no answer. I knocked again, harder this time. Finally, Ethan opened the door. He looked off, sweaty, pale. His eyes wouldn't meet mine. "You okay?" I asked. "I heard something." He hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, just dropped something." "All good." But it wasn't all good. The way he stood there, half blocking the doorway, shoulders tense, it was like he was guarding something. I couldn't explain why, but my gut told me something was wrong. I didn't press him, just nodded and went back inside, but I couldn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying every detail, his expression, his body language, the way he tried to hide his right hand behind his back. At 2:17 a.m., I got up again. Something was eating at me. I tiptoed to the kitchen, looked out the window toward the guest house, and that's when I saw it. The light was still on. But Ethan was outside now. Digging. In the garden. I stood there frozen, heart racing. It wasn't normal. It wasn't right. And the way he kept looking over his shoulder, like someone might catch him, it made my blood run cold. I knew I should have woken Alex. I knew I should have said something then. But instead, I waited. And what I found the next morning, buried under that patch of soil, changed everything. I didn't say a word the next morning. Not over coffee, not during breakfast, not even when Alex asked if I'd slept okay. I lied, said something vague about a headache. The truth was tangled in my throat, choking me. I couldn't shake the image of Ethan, standing out there in the dark, shoveling dirt with the urgency of someone trying to erase something. Alex had no idea. He smiled at me like he always did, calm, steady, trusting. That only made it worse. He believed the best in people, especially in his son. I envied that blind faith sometimes. While he showered, I walked outside, heart pounding. The garden looked normal. Too normal. Ethan had smoothed the soil, lined the stones back up perfectly. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would have thought nothing had changed. But there was a new patch bare, no flowers, like something had been dug up. Or buried. I knelt down, pressed my fingers into the dirt. Still soft. Part of me wanted to start digging right then. The other part, the louder one, told me to stop. What if it was nothing? What if I was jumping to conclusions and creating drama where there wasn't any? But that same voice also whispered, what if it's not? Ethan didn't come in for breakfast. That wasn't unusual, he often slept late, but today it felt deliberate. Avoidant. Hiding. Later, I found myself scrolling through his social media, looking for, I don't know what. Clues? Context? Something to make sense of what I'd seen. His pages were clean. Too clean. No recent posts, no comments from friends. His last photo was from 6 months ago, him and Alex at a baseball game, both smiling. Normal. But it felt staged now. I didn't trust what I was seeing anymore. Ethan wasn't just some aloof stepson. He'd lived in this house, in our backyard. I had cooked him meals, shared Christmases, smiled through awkward birthday dinners. And yet, I realized I didn't know him. Not really. That thought sat heavy. That afternoon, I finally confronted Alex. Gently. Do you think Ethan's been off lately? He looked up from his laptop, brow furrowing. Off how? I hesitated. Just withdrawn. Tense. Like something's bothering him. He leaned back. Ethan's always been private. You know that. That's not what I mean, I said carefully. It's different now. Like he's hiding something. Alex smiled faintly, but there was a flash of something else in his eyes. Worry? Defensiveness? He's been through a lot, he said, softer now. Losing his mom, he never really talked about it. He was just a kid, trying to hold it together. I think he learned to keep things in. That struck me. Maybe too much had been left unspoken. Maybe Alex had tried so hard to protect his son that he never saw the cracks forming. I didn't tell him about the garden. Not yet. I wanted to, but I needed more. Proof. Something real. That night, I stayed up again. Watched from the window. Waited. Around 1 a.m., the light in the guest house flicked on. A silhouette moved inside. Then darkness again. In the morning, I went back outside. Something was different. A faint smell near the garden, chemical, sharp. And there were new marks in the dirt, like it had been disturbed again. My pulse quickened. I wasn't imagining this. But what was I looking at? Panic? A mental break? Or something darker? I decided I had to find out. But I'd need to be careful. Because whatever Ethan was hiding, he didn't want anyone to know. And he was willing to bury it. Literally. I didn't sleep the third night either. By now, the lack of rest was making everything feel warped. Sounds were sharper, silences heavier. Every glance Ethan gave me felt loaded. I couldn't tell if he knew I was watching him, or if he simply didn't care anymore. That morning, Alex left early for a conference out of town, just one night, back the next day. Normally, I'd appreciate the space. This time, I felt abandoned. Alone in the house with Ethan just yards away in the guest house, and that patch of soil that wouldn't leave my mind. I almost called the police. Almost. But what would I say? My stepson is acting weird, and I think he buried something in the garden? That's not a crime. Not yet. Instead, I decided to take a picture of the garden, proof it had been disturbed again overnight. I stepped outside with my phone, careful, quiet. Just as I lifted the camera, I heard a voice behind me. You really shouldn't be out here. I turned, startled. Ethan was standing at the edge of the path, hands in his hoodie pockets. His expression was unreadable. Not angry. Not warm. Just blank. Didn't know you were up, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He didn't blink. I was. You've been watching me. I opened my mouth, then closed it. There was no use denying it. I heard something a few nights ago. I got worried. Ethan took a slow step closer. It's not what you think. I kept my feet planted. Then what is it? He looked at me for a long moment. Then shook his head. You really want to know? I nodded. Fine, he said. Come inside. Every nerve in my body screamed not to, but I followed him into the guest house. It was dim inside, cluttered but clean. Workstation on one side, editing monitors glowing softly. A mattress in the corner, unmade. It smelled like coffee and something burnt. Ethan walked to the far wall and pointed to a small metal lockbox on the shelf. I buried this. I stared at it, confused. What's in it? Letters, he said. From my mom. My chest tightened. You buried letters? He looked down. She wrote them before she died. Told me to read them when I turned 21. I didn't. I was afraid. When I finally opened them last week, it messed me up. I couldn't stop thinking about her. About how I've just stalled out. I didn't know what to do with the weight of it. So I buried them. Like that would make it stop. He looked up again. Then I dug them up. I needed them. That's what you saw. I stood in silence. Something in his voice was raw. Real. But something else still felt wrong. Can I see one? I asked gently. He paused, then nodded. Handed me one. The handwriting was faded, shaky. My sweet Ethan, it began. I scanned it, soft memories, guilt, sorrow, a quiet plea for him to forgive himself. I handed it back, heart twisting. But as I looked around again, something caught my eye, a small, dark stain on the rug. Circular. Dried. What's that? I asked. Ethan followed my gaze. His face changed. Panic, just for a second. Then he smiled. Coffee, he said. Spilled it a few nights ago. But I knew that smell. I was a nurse long before I ever became a stepmother. That wasn't coffee. And suddenly I realized maybe he hadn't told me everything. Maybe this was only part of the truth. And maybe something else was still buried out there. Something that wasn't a letter. I locked the guest house door behind me and walked straight to the kitchen, legs trembling beneath me. I turned on the tap just to drown out the sound of my own heartbeat. That smell hadn't left my nose. Metallic. Faint, but unmistakable. Not coffee. Blood. I tried to convince myself otherwise. Maybe he cut himself. Maybe it was old. Maybe I was spiraling from exhaustion and paranoia. But deep down, I knew something was off. Ethan hadn't told me the whole story. That lockbox might have been real, but it wasn't the only thing buried out there. And now I was alone in the house. No Alex. No backup. I paced the hallway, phone in hand. Should I call him? The police? A friend? But what would I say? There were no threats. No crime, technically. Just a stain and a feeling I couldn't shake. I needed something solid. I made up my mind. I was going back out to the garden, this time with gloves and a shovel. I waited until I heard the guest house door close again. Ethan had stepped out, probably heading for his usual late-night walk. I slipped outside the moment he was out of sight and hurried to that same bare patch of earth. It looked undisturbed now, but I knew better. I started digging, quick and quiet, heart hammering. Inch by inch, I unearthed loose dirt, then a plastic tarp. My breath caught. I pulled it up slowly, praying I was wrong. Inside wasn't what I expected. Not a body. Not anything violent. It was a duffel bag. Heavy. Dirty. Zipped. I hesitated, then opened it. Cash. Stacks of it. Tightly bound. Covered in grime. Tens, 20s, 50s. Thousands, maybe more. My head spun. I reached inside and pulled out a small velvet box. I opened it. A ring. An engagement ring. That's when I heard the footsteps behind me. I turned slowly. Ethan stood there, no hoodie this time, eyes hollow. Tired. I knew you'd come out here eventually, he said. I stepped back. What is this? He didn't answer right away. Just looked down at the bag, then back at me. She said I could have it if I waited until I was ready, he murmured. I blinked. Who? My mom. He knelt beside the hole and stared into it like it was a grave. She left it all to me. Not just the letters. The money. The ring. She told me in those notes she'd hidden it from my dad. Said it wasn't his to have. Said one day I'd understand why. But I didn't. I didn't want it. I didn't want any of this. I thought maybe if I buried it, it'd stay buried. Like her. My throat was dry. You've been unraveling alone, Ethan. He smiled faintly. No one ever asked me if I was okay. I'm asking now. For a second, the tension between us shifted. His face softened. But then his eyes flicked toward the house. You can't tell my dad. I froze. Why? Because he was supposed to find it. That's what she meant. That he didn't deserve it. You don't know what he was like after she died. My blood ran cold. I was a kid, he said, voice suddenly flat. But I remember everything. I stared at him, trying to read between the lines. You think he doesn't deserve to know? He looked at me. I know he doesn't. The wind picked up. The tarp fluttered at my feet. The ring shimmered under the moonlight. Somewhere in the distance, Alex's car pulled into the driveway, home early. And just like that, the air snapped tight again. I was caught between the man I married and the son I didn't really know. And the truth, whatever it was about to blow everything wide open. Alex stepped through the front door with the same familiar smile that used to make me feel safe. Now, I didn't move. I just watched him walk toward me from the porch light, unaware of the scene he was walking into, his wife holding a half-buried duffel bag full of cash, his son standing silent in the dark, a ring glinting at their feet like a curse. What's going on? Alex asked, slowing down when he saw our faces. Why are you out here? Neither of us answered. He looked from me to Ethan, then down at the dirt. The tarp. The open bag. His face changed, curiosity twisted into something sharper. Suspicion. Maybe even fear. Is that, he began, taking a step forward. Ethan snapped. Don't. Alex froze. Ethan, what the hell is going on? Ethan looked like he was vibrating under his skin. You lied to me. You always lied. About what? About her. About Mom. You told me she left nothing. That we were broke. That everything was gone. And the whole time, he gestured to the bag, this was sitting in her things. You buried it. Or tried to. Alex blinked, stunned. You think I knew about that? Ethan laughed bitterly. She didn't trust you, Dad. She wrote it in the letters. She said if I found this, to never tell you. Alex looked at me. What letters? I nodded slowly. She wrote to him before she passed. Ethan found them last week. Alex's face darkened. That's not possible. What do you mean? I asked. He ran a hand over his face. Those letters, they were destroyed. I watched her burn them. She made me. Ethan's face went pale. What? She sat in the garage one night, months before she passed, and cried while she threw each one in the fireplace. She told me she didn't want to leave behind pain. But I have them, Ethan whispered. She left them in a box with my name on it. Alex looked shaken. Then who wrote them? The question hit like a slap. We all stood there, the night too quiet. I didn't fake them, Ethan muttered, stepping back. I wouldn't. I didn't respond. Something didn't feel right. If Alex was telling the truth and the letters were burned, then who had written them? I thought back to the pages. The phrasing, the way they leaned hard into guilt. Secrets. Directives. Where's the box? I asked Ethan. He looked wary. Inside. Show me. We stepped into the guest house. Ethan retrieved the lockbox from the shelf. I opened it again, pulling out the letter I'd seen before. I held it to the light. And that's when I noticed something I hadn't before. The signature wasn't hers. Not exactly. It was a nickname only Ethan used for her. Ethan, did you ever show these letters to anyone else? He shook his head. No. Why? I turned the letter over, examining the paper. The texture was too new. The ink not faded enough. These weren't written over 6 years ago. They were recent. Alex stepped forward, voice cold. You forged them. Ethan stared at the floor. No, he whispered. But his hands were shaking. Did you write those letters to yourself? I asked gently. To justify what you already knew? To turn her against him, after the fact. Silence. That silence was confirmation. My stomach turned. The letters weren't a message from the grave. They were a weapon, built from memory, pain, and resentment. Ethan's voice cracked. You don't know what he was like. You didn't see it. She was scared of him. Alex backed up. That's not true. You hit her, Ethan hissed. Once. I saw it. Alex went pale. And I hated myself for it. It never happened again. I stood frozen between them, the truth fracturing like glass. Ethan hadn't just been hiding money. He'd been rewriting the past, letter by letter. And now, with Alex home, and the truth in pieces, we were about to find out what really got buried all those years ago. The silence after Ethan's confession was heavier than anything he could have buried in the yard. Alex looked like the ground had been ripped out from under him. His jaw clenched, but his voice was low, raw. You wrote those letters to make me the villain? Ethan's eyes welled. You were the villain. Maybe not to everyone, but to her. To me. You don't get to rewrite the past because you're angry, Alex said, voice rising. Yes, I lost it once. One time. And I never forgave myself. But I loved her. I loved you. No, you loved control, Ethan snapped. You loved your version of this family. You buried everything she couldn't say, and now you want me to pretend like she didn't leave me a message? So I made one. I needed something. I needed to hear her. Even if it was a lie? I asked, stepping in, my voice shaking. Even if it destroyed everything left between you two? Ethan looked at me, and in his eyes, I saw a kid who never got to be one. A boy who grew up holding pieces of a broken home, trying to make them fit. I didn't plan this, he said. The money was real. The ring. I think she really did hide it. But when I found it, I just unraveled. I couldn't stop thinking about all the things she never said. So I gave her a voice. Alex stepped forward, tears brimming. You didn't have to do that. You could have talked to me. We could have gone through it together. Ethan laughed bitterly. You think I could come to you and say, hey Dad, I found the stash Mom left behind because she didn't trust you? I would have listened, Alex said, quieter now. Even if it hurt. Something in Ethan softened. Just slightly. But it wasn't enough. This changes everything, I said. We can't pretend it didn't happen. Ethan nodded. I know. I looked between them. You both need to decide what happens now. But this house, this tension, it's not sustainable. Ethan took a breath. I'll move out. I should have left a long time ago. No, Alex said quickly, the word catching in his throat. You don't have to, I do, Ethan interrupted. Not to punish you. To survive you. The three of us stood in that garden, under a pale dawn sky. It was almost peaceful. Except for the truth still lingering in the air like smoke. There was no screaming, no cops, no headlines. Just a father, a son, and a woman caught in the middle, none of us walking away unscathed. Ethan packed that morning. Quietly. No drama. I helped, not because I forgave him, but because it felt like the only human thing to do. He left the lockbox behind. I don't need it anymore, he said before he left. Whatever she wanted to say. I think I heard it anyway. Alex stood by the window as Ethan pulled out of the driveway, his face unreadable. I didn't ask what he was thinking. I just sat beside him and waited. Later that evening, I opened the lockbox one last time. Tucked beneath the fake letters, under a false bottom, was one envelope that looked different. Aged. Real. It was addressed to me. If you're reading this, it began, it means you're the woman my husband trusted after I was gone. Thank you for loving my son. And thank you for being brave enough to see what others didn't. My hands trembled. This wasn't over. Ethan wasn't the only one keeping secrets. And the real story? It was only just beginning. I sat at the kitchen table with the letter in my hands for over an hour before I could even bring myself to read it twice. The handwriting was shaky, delicate, like someone trying to squeeze their soul into a single page before time ran out. It was real. No doubt this time. The postmark on the envelope was from 6 years ago, just weeks before Ethan's mother passed away. Hidden under a false bottom, it had been tucked away like a secret meant for the right moment. That moment was now. She wrote about pain, hers, Ethan's, Alex's. About regret. She admitted she'd kept the money secret because she didn't trust Alex's decisions back then. Said she loved him, but resented how he handled her illness, how he shut down, how he tried to stay strong when all she really needed was for him to fall apart with her. But most of all, she wrote about Ethan. About how sensitive he was, how deeply he felt things. How he needed someone to see him, not just manage him. She was scared he'd carry her silence like a weight forever. If you're the one reading this, she wrote, then it means you love my family enough to stay. Please help them heal because I couldn't. I folded the letter and slid it into my journal. I knew what I had to do. A few days later, I called Ethan. Told him about the real letter. Told him it changed things not because it made what he did okay, but because it helped me understand why he did it. He listened quietly. Then said, I didn't know she left something for you. She trusted someone would find it when it mattered, I said. It mattered. Ethan didn't come back home. But he came to dinner. That was enough for now. Progress wasn't about pretending nothing happened. It was about moving forward anyway. Alex struggled at first. Not with forgiving Ethan, but with forgiving himself. Turns out, the hardest thing to face is the version of you someone else remembers. He started seeing a therapist. They're still rebuilding their relationship, slowly, one conversation at a time. Sometimes that's all you can do. As for me, I stayed. Not because it was easy, but because it was worth it. Families don't break in a single moment. They crack over time. But sometimes, just sometimes, they can be rebuilt, stronger, messier, and more honest than before. That night in the garden didn't ruin us. It revealed us. And in the end, maybe that's the real story. It wasn't about money or secrets or even the letters. It was about what we choose to do when the truth finally comes out, when everything we thought we knew gets flipped upside down. We can run. We can bury it. Or we can face it together. That's what we chose. And maybe that's the takeaway here. Healing isn't a clean path. It's jagged, uncomfortable, and often painful. But it starts with truth. With letting go of the version of the story we wanted and facing the one we have. Thanks for watching and being part of this journey. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And if this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it too.